Hi everybody, I'm Sarah and today I'm here because I want to explain to you Tessdubervilles. Tess is a novel written by Thomas Hardy in 1891, and she grows up in the small village of Marlott. Her family was poor, her father was a peddler, and one day they discovered they were Duberville's descendants, and when their horse dies, her father decides to send her to the Duberville's estate to work there as a poultry maid. So she goes to Tentridge, which is the bigger village, let's say, and there she meets her cousin Alec. They didn't know that they were relatives, let's say. Tess knew, but Alec no, and Alec was immediately fascinated by her. At one point, he even rapes her because one night there was let's say a party in the village, and at night they had to come back. Tess was really tired, and Alec offers her a ride because he was riding a horse, and at the beginning she doesn't accept, but then she was really sleepy and she decides to, let's say, accept. They both get lost, they didn't know where they were, and she wanted to come back by herself because she didn't trust him, but he insists, and he also makes her feel guilty for treating him badly because he says that he's going to buy a horse to her father, and so she doesn't want to come by herself to home anymore, and he tells her to lay down on some leaves and try to sleep. But at this point he doesn't look for let's say the path home, but he takes advantage of her and she gets pregnant. At this point she comes back to her village of Marlott, and there she was actually really accepted. She was still loved by the people because the rural people are the more empathic one and the nicer one, let's say, the nicest people. And she gives birth to this little boy who she decides to name Sorrow because of, let's say, all the pain. Even though she was accepted in her village, she had to move out, let's say, because she was still criticized by the society. She was considered a fallen woman, and because of, let's say, get pregnant without marriage. And there she goes to Talbot's, where she works as a milkmaid, and she meets Angel. Angel is a son of a clergyman, and they fell in love. He proposed to her, and the night before the wedding she decides to reveal her past to him. So she writes a note and she puts it under the door, but he doesn't see it. So they get married. And the night of the marriage, she talks about him, about what she wrote in the note, and he didn't know it. So even though Alec is actually an open-minded character, he's still stuck, let's say, to the traditional Christian values, so he couldn't accept her and he leaves her. So after Alec flew away to Brazil, she goes to Flintcombe and she works there in the winter fields, and one day she hears the voice of Alec, but she actually couldn't recognize him because he converted to Christianity and now he was a preacher. She becomes his mistress because another time he kind of seduced her, and in this occasion she decides to accept because it was convenient for her being his mistress. She can't stand the situation anymore, so she goes to Sandbourne, and at this point Alec comes back from Brazil. They escape together and she finally kills Alec to have revenge since he ruined her life. The last scenes are set in Stonehenge. Since there she falls asleep on this stone, which is actually the stone of sacrifice, and that's why at this point she's executed for what she has done. As you have seen, this story is pretty tragic, let's say, as life according to Hardy, and Tess represents actually a strong woman because she is the victim not only of Alec but also of the society, because even though Alec raped her, her life could have gone better if society didn't pressure her so much and considered her a fallen woman. And even though her faith was against her, because as we have seen, she never finds peace, she always fights to change her destiny. Alec, on the other hand, is not even a real noble because his father bought the title, and is rich and immoral even after reconverting to Christianism. And he always uses his power to get what he wants without any, let's say, moral fault. Then the last character is the Angel, and Angel actually has a double personality, as I said something before, because on the one hand he's really open-minded. In fact, at the end he comes back to her, he accepts her for who she is and for her past, which actually doesn't depend on her, and it was not her fault, as we know. And but on the other hand, he grew up in a very conservative household, so he always had in mind his strict values of Christianism, of the tradition, which sometimes is even in contrast with. The morality is really important in this novel because Ardy shows us a distorted Victorian morality, since he finds a huge difference, a crash between maidman laws and actually natural laws. And he also adds that he shows us how morality depends on the place, on the people, on how you live, because as we have seen in the small village, Tess was not criticized. People still loved her, people loved their little boy, while on the contrary, in the outside society, which she had to face, she was considered miserable. Plus, Ardy of course points out also the theme of religion, since he criticizes Christianity, and he shows us how Christianity doesn't see what's behind us, what we have inside our true selves, but it only cares about what's on the outside. For example, when Tess wants to baptize and then do a proper funeral to sorrow, the clergyman says no. At the beginning he says yes because he feels pity for her, but then he says no because he can't, since according to the church this boy was only a sinful human. I really hope I was helpful, and yeah, that's all. Bye!